welcome everybody in the Sourcepass community. My name is Alan Bauman. I'm here with Joe Lynn Reen. And no matter how long we're on remote meetings, I think we will forever be plagued by the darn mute button. So welcome everybody. As I was saying to nobody other than myself, it looks like we're going to have an absolute record crowd today, record number of registrations. And Jolene, I feel like there's something about these old school applications, an Excel class or an Outlook class
Yes.
that really just piques people's interest. I know, some of the highest turnouts we've had have been for classes like that.
Oh, 100%. Because I think these are the most common applications, and if there's anything new, I'm definitely going to jump on board to want to learn more about those. So I think that's our audience's choices as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think about how long that a lot of us have been using Outlook, and
Oh my
it's
gosh.
measured in decades, not years or months. We're all brand new to Copilot, but not Outlook, not Excel. So,
See? Yeah.
really curious to hear what you have to say today, Joe Lynn. So we're going to just go ahead and launch right into this. And for those
Yes.
of you who are regulars, you kind of know the drill. This is a learning series webinar. SourcePass presents these once a month. We also have a digital transformation series of webinars, which have a little bit of a different focus. Those are also once a month. But we're really focused in these sessions on helping the SourcePass community better utilize the tools you already have. It's open to any SourcePass client. So if you have a colleague, a friend, and you think they would get something out of this, please refer the registration link to them. And even if they're not a SourcePath client, like I like to say that if they're a friend of yours, they're a friend of ours, feel free to pass that along. We'd be happy to have them attend. We do these monthly. Where registration is our website, sourcepass.com. It's pretty easy to find on there. You can sign up and then you'll be notified for future webinars as well. And as I mentioned, the digital transformation series is a little bit different than this. The learning series webinars are more about kind of that nitty gritty, teaching you how to learn the tools that you probably already have in maybe a more productive way, maybe teaching you some nooks and crannies of something like Outlook that you may not have been aware of. The digital transformation series is really more about, how to use technologies that you may not be familiar with. AI is a topic that has been covered there, as well as different strategies for things like disaster recovery and that kind of thing. So bigger picture in some extent. Um, in terms of a little housekeeping here, if you have any questions, the best way to ask those is with the Q&A button. On this platform, this version of Teams, we're using this now for the second time. We do have the ability to unmute microphones. So if we want to, ask, further clarifying questions to help give you the best answer, we're able to do that. But the best way to start is just use the Q&A button. And so far, I think we've been pretty good, Jolyn. We've answered, I think, every question in every webinar so far. And we'll stick around later if we need to. Um,
Sure.
and then finally, before we kick this off to Jo Lynn and let her do her thing, we'd love to get your feedback. And I thank so many of you for giving us lots and lots of feedback. I don't know how many webinars we've done now, maybe 8 or 9 of these. And every time we see the attendance grow and there's good questions, good feedback, good suggestions for future topics. So please keep them coming. You'll see an email from us with a survey in the next day or so. All right. And so with that, Jo Lynn, I'm going to toss it over to you.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Alan, and thanks everyone for joining us for our session here today on Mastering the New Outlook. If you have not already transformed into the new Outlook, you're probably coming into your normal Outlook and you're seeing a message at the top that is actually about using, or I should say, trying the new Outlook. So you can slide the button over, you can give it a try. If you feel like you want to go back to the classic Outlook, you can. But once you kind of get familiar with it, I don't think you're ever going to want to go back. I know personally for me, it took me a little bit to say, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and use the new Outlook, because I think, like Alan and I were talking, Outlook has been around for a very long time. And this new Outlook is really transforming us for the future of how we use software. And it's now more like using it on your phone, mobile apps, using it online, and using it with all of your other 365 apps. So I think it's easier to learn because of the fact that it's very similar to everything else. And of course, all applications are coming out with a lot of changes right now. So let me actually go to my Microsoft Outlook and let's walk across several different things that have now changed. When you come into the new Outlook, I'm in the inbox right now, which I do have as my default. But when you come in, you're going to see that it looks a lot different. We still have the menu on the left-hand side, but that menu is missing an icon. For those of you that used to use the Outlook tasks through all of my sessions for the past almost year, I've been telling people use to-dos because tasks is going away. It's now gone. So, which I'm very okay with because to do planner, etc., they all go together and it just makes more sense. But the menu on the left hand side is also customizable. So first, I'm just going to kind of start on the left hand side of the screen here. The icons of a little bit different because that's typical with a major upgrade like this. So you have your mail, you have your calendar. If you have a Copilot license, you'll also see Copilot right away on the left-hand side, which is fantastic. I'm personally a very big advocate of using Copilot, so great to have it right there. It just opens the app. We of course have Copilot built into the new Outlook as well, same as how it worked before. But anyway, we still have people. You'll have your blue check mark for your to-do. There's also an icon for groups. So if you're using Microsoft Groups, which most of us most likely are, you have access to your groups. But then the square icon looks like a number 4 on the rolling the dice here. That's what I refer to it as. You can click on that to open up all your apps. So if you have an app that you want to have quick, easy access to, you can add it just like in Microsoft Teams, you can pin it to the left-hand side. I think that's not one of my favorite, but in the top 10, that's probably one of my favorite things to be able to do, because why leave one application to go to another when I can just do it right from here? So as an example, if I click OneDrive, it will automatically take me to my OneDrive and the icon is on the left-hand side. I can right click on the icon just like in Teams and click pin. So it will stay there. So as I navigate back to the inbox, whatever, it will automatically stay on that left-hand side. So if you have things that you're using on a regular basis, pin them. You want to have quick, easy access to them. But let me talk about what else is different. You're going to notice that the ribbon at the top looks a lot different than it used to. We had way too many commands than people were necessarily using. We don't really need all those same bells and whistles. We want clean, easy to find things. So they have revamped the way that things are going to show up on your screen, which is absolutely fantastic. So you have your home tab, just like we always did. You do have a view tab, but the view tab isn't the full length of your screen. It's very condensed, very little information on changing the way you're looking at things. And then you have help. That's it. We don't need all those other tabs across the top of the ribbon like we used to. But one of the things I want to mention on the view tab is, and we can do this in different ways, is where it says ribbon. If you click ribbon, you can still use a classic ribbon or you can have simplified. So whichever your choice is, use whichever one you want. I personally, my personal preference is I like to use the actual classic ribbon because I like the bigger icons and access to all my things, but it's totally up to you. But I'm going to use the classic throughout the session here today. I'm going to jump back to the home tab of the ribbon. When you actually click on an email, the reading pane is turned on by default because that's a very essential tool when we're using Outlook email. So what's going to be different for you is there are some different commands that I'll cover when we go across the ribbon itself, but let me continue with kind of what do you see on the screen that's very different. Top right. If you go to the top right, just like all of your other programs, kind of makes sense, Keeping things consistent, you're going to have a gears icon. The gears icon, of course, is going to take you into your settings, just like all your other apps. But there's a lot more to this top right here in Outlook that I just want to mention for right now. I will go into settings, but I'm going to save that for a little bit later. But you do have an icon called My Day. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I talk about tasks. You have your reminder icon, so the bell icon. So if you have any reminders, you can actually click on that to bring them back. I don't know if you're a snoozer when you get a pop-up reminder, but this is my reminders. So just so you can see, it opens up a pane to the window. Also, we have this idea icon. And you're going to see Copilot. Copilot is going to be conveniently located at the top right as well as on the left-hand side, so it's convenient wherever you need it. But that, of course, is if you have the license for it. Now, I'll come back to the top right and talk a little bit more about those. But what happens when you click on an email? They're still grouped and organized by date, but of course that can still all be changed. So right now I'm seeing all of my messages that came in today, and then I'm seeing yesterday, etc. Whichever one I click on, of course I'm seeing the contents of that message on the right hand side, but this has been revamped just a little. At the very top of the message, I can summarize the conversation by using Copilot. So if I simply click, oops, sorry, that was me. If I simply click, I just wanted to minimize that down. Thank you so much, Jolyn. There you go. If I want to summarize this conversation that I've been having with someone, I can still use Copilot to do that. It's just not at the top right. It's across the very top of the reading pane itself. So it automatically has given me a summary of the conversation with that specific person based on the message that I'm clicked on. You're still going to get your reply all, and your forward. But let me demonstrate how that's going to work for you now. If I click reply all, or forward, we're still doing so within the reading pane. But notice the top right. And we don't have the discard like we used to do, or the fact that you just have that icon to open it in a new window. We have a little icon that you can open it in a new window, but to be honest, I hardly ever do that. 99% of the time, I don't anymore. We don't need to anymore. Let me show you in a second. But first, just so you can see at the top right, instead of discard, we just have the trash can icon. So if I decide I don't want to respond, I just click the delete icon and it dismisses the reply or forward that I was doing. So super easy, super convenient. But I want to actually talk about what you're seeing on the ribbon. I'm on the message tab of the ribbon. So instead of me having to go to another window to have access to all of my tools, they're all here. We don't have to open it in a full window to have access to everything. So on the message tab, you're going to see your basic formatting. You have your styles. You have your insert group where you can be inserting all kinds of things. Notice we have tables, we have pictures. Things on the insert have changed a little bit, but I'll get to that. I could also go into Copilot, so if I need some help writing the email, I'm going to have these add-ins as well. I won't worry so much about those today. My loop component is still available, my dictate. We have our tag capabilities. You know, a lot of things are the same, but I don't have to go someplace else in a full window to have access to these. Also, notice I have a lot more tabs going across the top. If I go to the Insert tab, if you recall, if you did the full window when you were creating a new message or replying or forwarding, you had the Insert tab and it did take up the entire length of the ribbon. It was crazy the different things that we could insert. Nobody ever really used any of those. So we have the things that are most important, which I'm loving. So we can, of course, attach files, do all those kind of things. We've got pictures, we've got emojis, we've got tables. We don't need smart art. We don't need 3D modeling. We didn't need all of those features, so they're no longer here. Nice, easy to use features. And we have the Format Text tab, just like we had in the big window, but I never go here because it's on the Message tab. The things we are using, basic text formatting and things, that's really all we need, and it's on the Message tab. if you have a tablet, you'll have Draw. But otherwise, the Options tab, which is a very important tab to go to, just like it always was. You're going to see your typical Show BCC, which I use all the time, so I have that shown. But it also has your request delivery receipt, those kind of things. It has your tags. Also, it's going to have your save as options, like you saw in the message tab, but it has this more options as well. If I click more options, this is where in the past, it would open up this big window of all these different choices. What you're going to find here is your sensitivity. So if you want this to be private, confidential, those kind of things, and you could still do your request, read receipt, or delivery receipt. So very simplified, giving us just the things that we actually need. Okay. Now, you might be asking yourself, I used to go to the options tab for one thing, and that was delaying the delivery of an email. Well, they didn't take that feature away, of course, because that's a very common tool to use. Just so you know, if you go to send a message to someone and it's outside of their normal working hours, you're going to get a message across the top asking, saying this person it's outside of their working hours, whatever. Do you want to delay the delivery? So you could actually if it's outside of their working hours, they're not going to get it right now. Well, that's concept. So what if I wanted to create this now, but I don't want it to be sent until Saturday morning at 9 a.m.? We can still do that. By going to the send, notice there's a down arrow next to send. If you click that down arrow, you can schedule send. So the feature hasn't gone away, it's just in a different location. I don't even have to go to the options tab. It's so common that Microsoft really, they're focusing. You have probably seen a bunch of things with the word focus in all your Microsoft apps, but they're super focused now in Outlook, where it's feeding off of all your 365 apps to give us access to everything. And of course, we are reading their calendar, so it could pop up, or we can just say, I want to delay the delivery. Choose the date, choose the time, click send, and it, of course, will go to the outbox until that date and time and then go out. So that feature has not gone away. It's just a little bit different, which is okay. Otherwise, when you are actually typing in your response, everything is working exactly the same technically as it did before. But notice at the top where it says from, if I am using multiple accounts, which I've had a few people send me messages saying I've had some issues with calendars and things like that. You have to be aware that by default, whatever it is that you do in Outlook, it uses your default account. So this is my default account. Although I have another email address connected to this Outlook, on the left-hand side, you can see I also have student one. But if I click on this drop down for from, I could choose student one to send the message from, or whatever other accounts I have. But if I create an appointment and things like that, by default, it's always going to be based on my default account. Just so you're aware of that. There's been a few issues. But anyway, and by the way, that's not new. That's always been the same. So it always defaults back to whatever your standard account is. But anyway, just so you can see, this looks very similar to what it did before. But the one thing that I do want to do is I'm going to go back to the message tab, because that's usually where we're at. I want to click attach file, because let's say that I want to go to my computer and I want to attach a file from my computer to this email. Because things are a little bit different when it comes to attachments, and I actually really like that. And I'm just going to grab any file and click open. Once I do that, you can attach a file just like you normally would. But if the file was on a cloud and you were sending it to someone internally, this is not an internal person I'm sending this to, which let me change it so you can see that differently. If I send it to a coworker, let me go back and attach a file again. This one brought it in as an attachment by default. I'm going to go back to attach file. I'm going to click browse the computer. If I have something coming from a cloud location, I can actually do it as a link as well. So I'll just grab anything here just so you can kind of see. There's different things that are going to pop up and you should pay attention. Oh, I'm sorry, I just did that. I could upload from my Outlook, or I could dismiss managing multiple files. Just so you could see, you can end up with different options, inserting links, inserting attachments, uploading from anywhere, and I could go straight to the link from the drop down as well. Now I'll come back and talk a little bit more about that, but I'm going to click dismiss on that. I'm going to discard that. I click the delete icon on the top right. I want to create a new message here real quick. I'm going to click the new icon over at the top left like we normally would do. Now when you create a new message, it doesn't default to going into a new window. It automatically takes us into the reading pane to create that new message. It's easier. It makes more sense. But notice that I have type a slash, or I could click draft with Copilot. So that is going to show up whether we reply forward or we're creating a brand new message. So just so you know that that is capable of using Copilot within there as well. But I'm going to get the same exact options going across the top. So just like when I reply forward, etc., I get the same when I'm doing a new message. But I like the fact that I don't go into a brand new window. But what if I do want it to be in a new window? The only times I'm really doing that is I've had some people come back and say, okay, are you available these dates or whatever? I will go to the top right and click on the open a new window. This is what it's going to end up looking like for you if you do that. So you can see that you have limited tabs going across the ribbon, just like you saw when you were in the reading pane. The only thing is I could actually, size my window. So if I want to see this on the right-hand side and I still want to see my Outlook calendar on the left or something, I could do that. But honestly, I don't even do that. Because we have so many other capabilities with everything these days that I just really don't need to do that anymore. I'm going to explain what I just was talking about because I can see my calendar when I'm doing emails. So I'm actually going to close that and let me just maximize this window back out here. So I'm in Outlook and I happen to be in the calendar, but let me jump back to email here for a second. If I'm actually doing a reply, a forward, or I'm in a new email, it doesn't really matter. I could actually go to the top right and I could click my day. My day is going to open a pane on the right-hand side that I personally cannot live without. I absolutely love this because it's giving you two tabs at the top. Instead of trying to split the little window into three, you have two tabs at the top. I can go to calendar and I'm going to see my calendar coming up. If I need to, somebody's asking, am I available next week or whatever, I could actually switch to whatever it is I want to see. So I don't have to worry about ever opening my email in a full window. I still have access to my availability. So if I need to check to see what I have coming up as I'm responding to a message, this is fantastic because I do this on a very regular basis because not everybody is using my bookings calendar to book time with me. But anyway, just so you could see, this is the calendar side. If I click on the tab for to do, this is referring, of course, to my tasks that I have in my to do on the left hand side. I can add things to my day, and if I need to know what do I have going on my day, I can instantly open it no matter what part of Outlook I'm in. That icon is at the top right. So if you're not using my day, which is now of course in to-dos, but it's also part of planner, you're missing the boat here because this is a great way to be able to focus on just what you need to be focusing on when it comes to what you need to do today, not next week. We don't want to focus on next week, last week. We want to just be focusing on today. So anyway, just so you know you have that, I'm going to go ahead and close that again. And let's talk about a couple of other things that I think are important to understand. I'm going to close this email and I'm not really going to send it. But what if I'm actually on an existing email? What are some other tools that we have on the ribbon that are important to understand? If you start at the top left, we still are getting ignore. So if you received an email and you want to ignore that conversation, you still have the capability of doing that. We also have very conveniently located blocking people. So if for some reason you get a spam person, you would have that capability to do that. But also you're going to see in the respond group, there's two different choices for now taking an email and turning it into a meeting. I'm going to show you both because if you have Copilot, you'll want to know about the schedule with Copilot. But in the respond, I'm going to click meeting. It's going to automatically take me into creating a meeting with whoever was a part of that email. This is not new. This is a feature we've had, but it looks so different. I love it. This is fantastic. It's so much easier to create a meeting. So when you come in, it's going to take the default of the subject. It's going to put in the content of the body of the message. But notice this window for the meeting has been revamped. Up at the top, I can add more people in. I can do optional people over on the right. This looks like Microsoft Teams, doesn't it? When you create a meeting in Teams, that's exactly what this is looking like. We could change the date, change the time. We can make it a reoccurring, but we also have this little globe icon for your time zone. I do a lot of different things on my calendar that are multiple time zones, so I'm really happy to have that right there. We can make it an all-day event on the right-hand side, but also on the right-hand side, two things I want to mention. One is a team meeting. If you want to turn this into a Teams meeting, slide the button over. Super easy. Then it's going to have the connectivity for Teams. But there's a new feature. It's called in-person event. And what this is beneficial for, as a matter of fact, let me change that for let me finish this up first. And then I'll demonstrate the in-person event because that's pretty cool. But the best part about this is if I'm looking at a date and a time, on the right-hand side, it automatically has my schedule. So I don't have to worry about going to the scheduling assistant, even though it is a tab at the top of the ribbon. We still could use it, but we don't need to because right away on the right-hand side, we can scan through multiple days. I could take this and move it. So if I know I want it to be at 4:30 that day, I could slide it down to 4:30 because I know I'm busy all of these days. So I can visually see right on the right-hand side. So super cool that that is the way this works. Other things that I want to mention is down in the typing area. You, of course, will have by default the contents of the message. Now, just like before, if you want to get rid of any of it, you most certainly can. You can add to it, do whatever it is that you need to do to that body of that message. When you're done, at the top left, you will have your send icon, or click on the drop down arrow and you could save it. So if you decided, okay, I'm going to create it right now, but I'm not done yet because I don't know all the details, you could actually save it as a draft. So nice simplified window. And I started this directly from an email. Now I'm really going to close that. And by the way, look at the new window. This is another new window. It doesn't have the options going across like it used to. So we went from horizontal to vertical. We can discard it, save it as a draft, or continue editing. I like this new look, this more modern look, because this is the look of the future. I'm going to click discard because I don't want to keep it. When I get to the calendar, I'll demonstrate a couple of other things. But let me continue across the top. I'll do meeting in a minute, but I'm going to do this schedule with Copilot. So if I'm on an email and I want to schedule something through Copilot, I can do that as well. So what this is going to give you, you get basically some of the same elements, but down in the bottom, you're actually in Copilot in the typing area. You can see that I automatically have the attachment of the email itself instead of the body of it going in. And if I scroll down, it automatically summarized. This is the part that just blows me away. It summarized the email that I was on. And it says, here's some options that you might want to have on the agenda. And here's a summary of the conversation of that email back and forth with that person. I love this. I use it every day. Seriously, I use this almost every single day, probably 4 days out of the week at least. But to me, this is just super. So hopefully you have Copilot, so you'll have that capability. I think you'll love it as well. So that's kind of the difference between those. I'm going to discard this, but so the difference between meeting is meeting takes the body of the message, populates it at the bottom. With Copilot, it's going to summarize the email. Attach it if you want, but you could remove the attachment. Suggest some agenda items for that meeting. So pretty awesome that we have that. But let me continue across the top here for a minute. We have this feature called Sweep. Sweep is actually, as you can see by the broom, the cute little sweep there. But if I click on it, it brings up rule capabilities based on the person that sent me the message. So I could move all messages from the inbox, move the message and tell it where I want them to go. Always keep the latest message and move the rest from the inbox. This is your cleanup conversation. So if you were previously using cleanup conversation, this is what it is now. Coming into Sweep and saying always keep the latest message and move the rest to the inbox or deleted items wherever we tell it to go, we can have it go to wherever we want. So if you were a component of using that feature, you still have that capability, and I use that regularly. I love that. But other things that I want you to be aware of, we do have the same move icon where we can say, I want to move this to a specific folder. We could set up a rule to say, always move the messages from this person to a folder, but rules have changed. If I go to rules, I'm going to click on manage rules. Manage rules is going to take me into my settings. So instead of the file menu like we used to use, this has been revised and I love it. So much easier to use and consistent with all other Microsoft apps. But I'm on the mail category from the left. And then in the middle part of the window, I'm on the rules. So layout through groups is all part of the mail category. But it's on rules, and on the right-hand side is where I would actually create that rule. So if I want to add a new rule, it's like using other applications like setting up workflows and different things where we don't have that wizard walking us through step by step and we have all those things on the window that we don't know what it's telling us. It's easier here. Give it a name and then choose the condition, choose the action, then click save. So it's much, much easier to use. So yes, we still have rules. It's just simplified. It's easier, which is all we need. And to the right of that, we still have quick steps, but that has been revised a little bit as well. So if you're using quick steps in the past, we still have the access to quick steps, but I'm going to click on the message, or I should say the drop down arrow next to it, and I'm going to go into manage quick steps. It's going to take me back into my settings window to the mail category, but I'm on the category here called quick steps. So I personally don't have any quick steps created right now. And by the way, I used to have a quick step and it's not here anymore. So just so you know, when you transfer over, you're going to lose any of the current quick steps that you had by default. But super easy to recreate, just like with the rule, you have your steps. So give it a name, choose an action, add other actions, etc. So you still get that full capability of using these quick steps. And of course, the benefit of quick steps is that it's on the ribbon. You just click on the icon for the one you want to apply or use, and it's automatically going to apply that quick step. Love that feature. But I haven't reset mine up yet because I decided I want to kind of wait and see how I want to use these again, because I wasn't taking full advantage of the ones I had before. So just so you know, the one that's there by default is delete message. Now, personally, I don't click on that through the quick steps, but it is there. Because when you are hesitating on an email, just like before, you will get your delete icon. So when I hesitate on any email, I could click delete. What you're going to see that is different is this push pin. You can pin a message. So if I click that push pin, it's going to pin it to the top. When I'm done, I can click the push pin again to unpin it. We still have flag capabilities, of course, and I still use flags, but I love this push pin because if I have things that I want to kind of focus on and use today, I want to come back and do these messages, whatever, I can use that push pin, just so you're aware that we have that. Pretty cool option. Now, that's a new feature, but we have pinning capabilities in all other Microsoft apps. So it just makes sense that we're going to have that here in Outlook as well. So that consistency once again. I had mentioned that we don't really have the file menu anymore. I don't know if you ever print emails, but just so you're aware, somebody asked me this the other day. I wanted to print an email, and I couldn't figure out how to print. You still have a print icon. It's actually on the home tab of the ribbon. Okay. So if you did need to print, you do have that capability. But otherwise, in the tags group, you can do your read, read, and unread. We can categorize just like we did before. We still have categories. The icons just look a little bit different. Here's your flag capabilities. You also have pin from here as well. And we have a snooze option. I have been taking advantage of this because sometimes I swear I get 10 messages that come in when I'm working on something. And what I can do is take a message and say, I want it to snooze until later today, tomorrow, or I could choose a date and choose a time, and then it's going to come back in as a new message. So just so you know, this is a great way to be able to take a message that, okay, I can't focus on it right now. This is an option instead of flagging it. I can just say, hey, let's go ahead and I just want it later today. So I'm going to snooze the message I was on for later today. It's going to come back in as a new message. I love that. I've been doing that a lot. But just so you could see, those are going to be your main choices that you're having across the home tab of the ribbon. We're not missing any major features. They're just named differently and easier to really use. They're where they really should be. I think Microsoft really did a wonderful job with this new Outlook. I'm super impressed. I was scared to jump into it, but now that I have, I absolutely love it. So anyway, one more thing that I want to mention while I'm in the inbox before I transition over to the calendar. If you go to your search, you're going to see that on the top, I have current mailbox. It can actually search anywhere. So let's say that I want to search things from Michelle. If I click Michelle, it's going to show me a list of emails, but notice across the top, this is your search tools. Remember how we used to get a ribbon that was sitting behind that drop down of the search? We now get this little menu with your most common things that you're searching about. So am I searching mail? I can click mail. Am I searching files? I could click files. Am I searching based on team options or people? Based on whatever it is that I'm looking for, this is an intelligent search because Outlook is a part of this whole entire 365 suite of applications. So we are searching everywhere. So it's got the intelligent search that Microsoft has incorporated. I am so impressed with this. And as a matter of fact, I came to people and this is her contact card. And down at the bottom, I can see messages. And as I scroll down, here's files. I could edit the contact card. I just love this. I think this is so smart that we have these capabilities with search. But I'm going to go back up to the top and, well, actually, I could just click on my inbox and it stops the search too, just like we always did. So just so you know, searching has definitely been enhanced. Last thing, I'm going to click on the sent items. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to click on my folder called sent items. When you have an email that you have sent out, this one happens to be related to a meeting. Notice when I read this on the right-hand side, a meeting, when I look at my right-hand side, at the top of this, it's showing me the meeting information. And then down at the bottom, I'm seeing the other details. So if I want to reply to this or forward it, otherwise at the top, I see, everybody that has accepted, I see the details of the meeting. So it kind of splits it into two panes if the email you click on is related to a meeting. I think that's pretty cool. But what if I click on just a regular email that wasn't related to a meeting? One of the things that I have used quite often is I click send too quick on an email. Don't know if you guys ever do that, but when you come to your sent folder, you're going to have different choices going across the top. Notice you have recall this message. So only available on the ribbon when you are in your sent, you could recall the message. Just so you know, that is that is super easy to get to, and it's still capable of recalling. We still can right click on a message and have our pop up, regardless of if I'm in the sent items or if I'm in the inbox. We can do that no matter where we're at. So just so you could see, you get your main choices too when you right click. Okay. But let's move to our next topic here real quick. On the left-hand side, I'm going to go to calendar. When you are in your calendar, Ellen, did somebody have a question before I transition?
Yeah, I wanted to try to catch it here. So, yes, so three quick questions here, Jolynn. So the first
Okay.
one is there a way to add borders to pictures?
So if we insert a picture into an email, you mean?
That's all I have here in this question. I would assume so.
Okay, so when you insert a picture, so I'm going to come into an email, and when I go to my insert tab, and if I say pictures, let me kind of show you what you get when you work with this. So if I bring in an image, I'm going to see what I might have here that I can bring in here real quick. Just to show you, I don't have a, oh yeah, I do. Oh, that might not be a good picture to bring in. Oh my goodness, I shouldn't have, let me bring in a tree. Okay, I'm just going to add that in. When it comes to working in an email, you do not get every capability that you might think. We do just have the menu going across the top. So when I'm selected on an image and I can right click on it, I'm getting this pop-up menu. When I click on an image, I'm getting this pop-up menu. Notice there isn't a whole lot. I can resize it, I can crop the image, but I can click change image. Change image is going to give you additional capabilities. Come on. Not popping up. Don't know why it's not doing that right at this second, but it would allow me to change that image to a different image. We do not get the flexibility of all those other tools that we used to get. So my choice would be, I would do it in Word or something else, make all those changes, copy and paste it into the email. Because they're really trying to condense what it is that we're doing in those menus, because that's not really something that we normally would do in an email. Okay. Alan,
Yep.
what was the
So,
other questions?
yep. Next question here. So, basically wanting to do a bulleted list, but have it by letters as opposed to numbers or bullets.
Oh, when you're talking about modifying the contents of the text.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm replying or forwarding or anything, we are limited on the capabilities that we have. So if I want to do 1, 2, 3 kind of a thing, oops, whatever, however it's spelled. When you go to select that text, you do have your bullet capability and you do have your numbering capability, but that's all we're getting these days. We're not getting that flexibility of all those outlining levels like we used to. So they are a little limited on that.
All right,
Okay.
and last one here in this question. So for emails that you have already replied to, you replied to this message on 10/9/2024 banner at the top of the message. However,
Correct.
this banner is grayed out in the new Outlook. In the old one, we were able to click and see the email that was sent.
Correct. And I still do. So why is yours grayed out? That would be strange. I was just trying to see if I have a message that was going to show me that. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I don't know why it would be grayed out. Oops, I'm in my sent items. Let me go to my mail, my inbox. So if I'm on an email, oops, I have my suggestion on my reply to that. Oops, another suggestion. Okay. Oh, it is grayed out. I thought I clicked on that before. So why is that grayed out? That's a very good question. I thought with the new Outlook I had clicked on that. So this is the banner and it is grayed out. You can't click on it to go back to it. You know what, Ellen? I'm not sure why we're not seeing the option to go back to that. Um,
we can maybe take this offline,
Yeah, we might
Jolynn.
need to because I'm not 100% sure why it's grayed out. I thought
Hmm.
that I clicked on it the other day. So let's table that one and get back to that
Okay.
person.
All right,
Okay?
Diana, we'll get back to you on that. And one last question here.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
so it says the one thing I'm curious about, will the color coding, in parentheses, categorization of our calendar appointments transfer to others when sent?
Um, I don't think they do.
I
But
don't
let
think they
me,
do either.
yeah, I don't think they do even in the new Outlook. But
Hmm.
when I'm in the calendar, let me actually do an appointment and we can double check it because I have that account that I'm going to schedule it with here. So let's see. So let's say that I want to create an appointment for Friday and I'm going to be inviting people within my organization. So I'm just going to say that I want to create a meeting for tomorrow morning at Friday morning at 8 o'clock. I can just click Friday morning at 8 o'clock and it automatically brings up a new window to create the event now. If you want to see more than what it gives you by default, which I usually do, I like to see more of a window, but if I'm just doing something quick, this is easy to do because it automatically is giving me the title, who am I going to invite, that kind of a thing. But I'm going to click the arrow at the top right to maximize this window out a little bit bigger, just so you can see what these choices are. I love having this on the right-hand side and it's giving me red because I'm not actually available at that time. So it's showing me that I'm not available at 8 o'clock on Friday. But let me fill this out just so you can see. So I'm going to say department um, convo. And I'm going to invite my student one to this. And on the right-hand side, I'm actually going to choose that this is going to be an in-person event because I want you to see what happens with this. Notice it's automatically giving me suggestions based on the two people that I'm inviting. I don't even have to go to the scheduling assistant up at the top of the ribbon. I can just use the suggestions right here. Down at the bottom, I can add in my details, attach files, all of that. My menu, my tools are conveniently located when I'm in the typing area. So if I want to attach files or whatever, use a loop component, all of them are right here. I don't have to worry about going to a ribbon and trying to find what I need. Things are here and easy to use. But I wanted to do this in person. So I'll come back and show you how that all is going to end up working. So anyway, this is how we would schedule that to appear. So I'm just going to go ahead and send this. And by the way, I could save it as a draft, but I'm going to just click send because I want you to see what it's going to end up looking like. Now, if I didn't, and just so you know, when I look at this appointment here on my calendar, notice it has this icon, and if I hesitate, it says in person. So I'm requesting that this is an in-person meeting, not a virtual meeting. If I didn't categorize it, with a label, I could still right click and I could still go to categories. Just like we did before, I could do it during it or after it. So I'm going to say that I want that to be categorized. So now I have this color on there. And I had sent the appointment to my coworker, student one. So let me go back to my student one email. So I'm going to go back to mail. Down at the bottom here, I have my student one. I'm going to go to my inbox. That person will see the department convo in person right on the subject. So we can see that they're requesting this to be an in-person event. But what if I'm going to be working remotely? I can't be there for in person. You can see that it says this is an in-person event, but if I click on accept, I can say I'm accepting as an in-person or I'm going to accept it, but I'm going to be attending virtually. I think this is smart because then we know, okay, this person is working someplace else and this person is going to be here to come live to the meeting. So just so you know, you can do that. I'm going to say accept in person. Okay, so I've accepted this meeting. Notice how the window changed. But let me go to the calendar again. And I'm actually going to go to the calendar for my student one so that you can see what it's actually going to look like. So here on the bottom, on the left-hand side here inside the calendar, I'm going to choose to see my calendar for student one. So here's that Friday. It still does not show the category color that I had personally because their colors are going to be different than mine on their categories. So it doesn't show that. Okay, so hopefully that answered that person's question. Okay. But I definitely use multiple email accounts. Ellen, did you have one more?
That's it for now, Jolyn.
Okay. Perfect. Now, one of the things that I missed in the old Outlook that we now have back again is actually the weather. Remember how the weather all of a sudden disappeared and Microsoft kept saying they were going to bring it back and going to bring it back, and then it never was coming back? Well, it's back now. So just so you know, you do have the weather. If you go to the top right of the day, you can click on it. You can see different locations, whatever it is you need. You can edit whatever location it is that you want to see. But it's interactive right there on the actual calendar itself. So not a ton, I don't think, except for when you go to create a meeting. Like if I want to create a brand new meeting, I still can go to the top left and click new event, click on that icon for a new meeting, and still set it up this way. There it's going to open in the full window as opposed to me clicking on the calendar to do it. But same difference. I still get the same features, but you're not seeing all of those busy tabs going across the top with too many things that nobody ever used. Remember, if you come to the bottom in the typing area, you'll get the tools that you need when you're down there. Okay, just so everybody is aware of that. But I love having this on the right hand side. To me, that is one of my favorite new features in the calendar. But let's talk about a couple of other things, because there's more to, of course, the new Outlook than just email. So let's go back to the left-hand side. I'm going to go to people. People isn't very different, but we are limited on what we're seeing up on the top, and that's okay. We still have the capability of having multiple email accounts if we need to. If I want to have a new folder and things like that, we can have all these different folders. But one of the things is, and I forgot to mention this when I was in the email, we can have labels to categorize and have those categories show up in our favorites in email. You can kind of see that I have some here that are categorized. So they're showing up here, but I have separate for my directories. So coming from my mail server, I have my global address list versus my contacts. And then these are the additional ones that I had prior that were categorized. Otherwise, when you click on the name of someone from your contacts, on the right hand side, you're going to see all of their details. It's just updated a little bit. If I had any files that I wanted to work with that were related to that specific person, we certainly could. So if I were clicking on a contact card from someone within my organization, if I wanted to see different information that was files that that person and I were recently working on and stuff, I could go to files. So it's more interactive with your other 365 apps, and I really like that. Condensed ribbon going across the top, just so you can see. We can add someone to the favorites category. We can add to a list. And those are basic things that we did have before. They just have different names to them now. We could click edit to edit the contact card directly from here as well. You're going to see that it's more modern. This is the way all email and other applications work in this regard. So I'm happy to have that. But I do want to jump back here for just 1 second back to email, just so you're aware of how this feature works. And I'm going to go back to my inbox here. I forgot to mention this. I'm going to right click on this message and I'm going to, here's my categories, and I'm going to categorize that email. Once I categorize an email by right clicking on it or using the tools from the ribbon, you could actually go back to that and you could add it as a favorite. So once I go to the, once I go to this category can, you can see the category up at the top. I could see my summary, so we're seeing some different information there. But if I right click on there, where's my add to favorites? I know it was here. Oh, where did it go? Why is it not showing up? Okay, it's copied to clipboard. Let me just drag it. I thought I could right click on it. I'll have to come back and figure that out. Oh, I did that before. I just did this the other day where I thought I just right clicked on it, said add to favorite, and it would take that entire category. Oh, here it was. No, I'll have to figure that out and let you know. But you could add a category to your favorite. So anything that is categorized with that color can be a favorite at the top left of your email. But back to the left-hand side here real quick. I'm going to go to do. There hasn't been many changes to the To-Do app because the To-Do app was already updated with Planner coming through Microsoft Teams. And of course, Planner will be updated all over the place here in the next few months. So not a lot of changes happen to To-Do without the tasks being removed. So now we just have to-dos. So if you had tasks that were entered in the old tasks in Outlook Classic, they're going to be here and they're going to be in the task category. So you're not going to lose those, just so you know. But otherwise, this does work the same as it did before. But we also have on the left-hand side access to your groups. So if you have groups that you're using through your Microsoft account, you will have access to those groups coming through here as well. So depending on, of course, what it is that you're working on the right-hand side, and the ribbon changes a little bit based on the group that you're on, but you will have access to the email. You will have access to the files related to that group, any events that you're doing through a calendar with that group, or who the members are of that group. So this to me is so easy to use. In the old version of Outlook, we just had a group called groups on the ribbon that had a couple of things. This is just more modern and easier to follow and easier to use, I think. Okay, so last thing I want to mention is at the top right, I'm going to go back to settings. So instead of the file menu going into options, at the top right, you would go to settings for all of those features. This is where you can manage accounts. So if you want to have more than one account, this is where we add those. This is also where your automatic replies is going to be placed. Notice it looks a little bit different than it used to. Also, we have our signatures, just like we always had signatures that we could be adding in. Managing our categories is here, mobile devices, and our storage. But on the general tab, you have your appearance, you have notifications, all of those types of features, privacy, what do you want at startup? Under the mail category, we saw a couple of these already, but just so you could see, there's a compose and reply option. So how do you want those to look? Making sure that what font you're using, all of those types of features. Also accessing attachments. Where do you want your attachments to be saved? Ellen, before I continue, did someone have a question?
Yeah, we just do have one last question here, Joe, and it's about customizing the toolbar. How can somebody customize the toolbar?
So talking about the ribbon, you mean?
Yeah.
We don't. Is there something specific that they were hoping to add to it or anything or remove from it? We don't really have that capability of modifying it like we used to. The only modifications we're going to have are going to be through the settings. So if they look at the general, we're going to have appearance options using colorful icons, setting up different notifications, but there really isn't a way to customize the ribbon anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
But one thing in the settings that you definitely want to make sure is set up, of course, is on the right-hand side, if you're going to be doing multiple time zones or anything, this is where you would be setting those up. What are the days of the week that you work? All of those things are very important. Also, your events and your invitations, you make sure that they're all online when you first create them, your weather, different custom actions that you can be using, send a OneNote, those kind of things. Bookings can be added in as well, so we can have access to bookings. So make sure that you're coming in here, and it's more individualized. This is something I wished for through Microsoft. If I don't work Fridays, but on Thursdays I work 12 hours, we would have the capability of each day being different work hours. We never had that before. That was a request a lot of people had, and they finally put that in, and I love it. Okay. But boy, Ellen, that's a lot of different things talking
Mm-hmm.
about Outlook, and we are so out of time. I don't want to
Yeah.
take any more time with everybody. But are there any other things any other questions that anyone has before we kind of wrap up a little bit?
I don't see any other questions, Jolene. I think you covered it all. We'll just do a real quick rundown on
Yeah.
some of the upcoming webinars. The 23rd of October is part of the digital transformation series, understanding today's cyber threat landscape. If you didn't know that October is Cybersecurity Awareness
Yes.
Month, now you do. So, we've got some stuff going on around that theme, certainly this month. Our next learning series event is November 13th. We're going to have I'd call this really an intro class to Microsoft SharePoint. And then again, a learning series in December. We're going to be looking at optimizing workflow, navigating OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams. So one of these sessions where we're talking about really integrating things and understanding how things connect with each other, because that's so fundamental to the 365 environment. But some good stuff coming up. These are all out there right now. If you want to sign up ahead of time, just get it done. Absolutely. And again, feel free to share these links with others. I know we're really building up quite a list here of people that have signed up and want to be notified. So, feel free to continue to spread the word. And if there's anything that we can do for you, any questions that came out of this, you want more information on anything here or elsewhere within 365, you can always reach out to your client success manager slash CSM. If you know who that is. If you don't know who that is, you can just reach us at events@sourcepass.com, and we'll figure out how to route that for you. So either way, we'll get you the help that you need. So very good session here, Joe Lynn. Really appreciate this. I think
Thanks.
folks got a lot out of it. I know I did as usual. And we'll see everybody here next time.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye.